Hi, it's Adele Michael, and I'm back with a More Abundance Live. And today I want to talk to you about standing in the discomfort. The discomfort of recent events since the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis on May 25th, the riots, the protests, and the upheaval of emotions and realizations about the true nature of equality in our country. I was raised in a Christian middle-class home in the South of the United States, and I was taught that if you had merit and worked hard, that you could succeed. And I realize now that that's not entirely true. If you don't have opportunities for education, for good housing, for safety, for food, for water, and for opportunities, there is no equality. And so this past weekend, given all the events that have been happening, I watched a documentary, and it really took the blinders off. It was painful. It was very painful to think that I have grown up in a country where I thought people could have equal opportunity, and we don't. So it became, and it really touched me to the core, and it became obvious to me that I have a moral mandate to act. And that's on several fronts. One is that my family was in Jamestown starting in 1620, one year after the first slaves were brought from Africa and sold to the colonies, the colony. One of those people was a slaveholder, a slave runner, and became a very wealthy man in Virginia. I had other wealthy plantation owners who were slaveholders, and I have black cousins, as many white people do, who lived in the plantation culture, came from the plantation culture, which is the slavery culture. And I am, at heart, am a warrior. Warrior. I may seem mild-mannered, but I am a warrior at heart. And so this is very galvanizing for me. And I cannot live with myself unless I act on what I now know. Now, that doesn't have to be you. You may not be a warrior. You may be something else. Your role in this may be something entirely different. So I got this from Instagram. Resistance is not a one-lane highway. Maybe your lane is protesting. Maybe your lane is organizing. Maybe your lane is counseling. Maybe your lane is art activism. Maybe your lane is surviving the day. Do not feel guilty about not occupying every lane. We need them all. So, as you choose your lane, and I've been sitting with the question all week of how can I best serve? One thing that's very obvious to me from being in conversation with Black people and being on calls where Black people are starting to have conversations with white people about how they are perceiving our behavior and our privilege. And it's very obvious that we white people need to do our own emotional work around this. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's painful. And yes, it hurts our feelings. And yet, that is not their obligation to help us heal. It's our obligation. And what I do know from my own experience is that good intentions are not enough. I'm a nice person. I'm a good person, just like you are. But my good intentions have not changed anything. So I think it is time to do the inner work of healing our own racism, our internal racism, to take the action that is for us to take as individuals and collectively, and to respond as we are guided. So again, that may be to be an activist, it may be to be a healer, it may be to be a cook, it may be to be a donor, whatever it is. If this calls to you for us to have a more equal and just society, you do have a role. And what I realize that my contribution can be in these times is to help update our definition of abundance to match our values. So the people I work with do not think that they're going to have a yacht and a mansion. That is not on the top of their list. They want to do their work. They want to contribute. They want to have enough to fill their own needs, and they want to give to others and make a difference in this world. I can help heal the collective trauma of racism and the white trauma of what happened to our ancestors, which is literally carried down into our DNA. So if you had a great-great-grandmother who was in the potato famine in Ireland, your cells still remember that. That is trauma. For 1,000 years, many of our family members were serfs in the Middle Ages. And those were very, very violent and tough times. There were no individual rights. There was the rich people on top and everybody else. So we have those memories too. And that is the skill set that I have, is to help heal those memories on a cellular and neurological level. And especially to free that up in white women, to know that we can have abundance so that we can share abundance. An abundance of money, of influence, of action. It's not just money, but if more women had more money, our society would look very different. Someone said last week, if Jeff Bezos, who is the CEO or the chairman of Amazon, were a woman and had $138 billion at her disposal, what difference would that make? What would you do if you had $138 billion that you could run a business with, of course, but also focus in different areas? Political action campaigns, the environment, racial causes, supporting Black businesses, helping indigenous people, finding water, having water supplied to people who don't have clean water. What would you do? So that is my stand in the world. And I'd like to ask you what your stand is. And yes, it is uncomfortable. It is not a cakewalk. But you know, Black people and people of color have been uncomfortable since the beginning of this nation. And I personally do not believe that we can go forward and flourish and thrive as a nation until we heal and resolve our racial disparity and see abundance for all and act for abundance for all. So that's my new stand, abundance in all, for all. And I will do what I can to bring that to fruition. And I do have I just want to speak to the Black people that I've had the privilege to work with and who may be watching this. You are welcomed. I welcome you with open arms, respect, and honor into this community. And I realize that it may be more comfortable for you to work and listen to a Black coach, trainer, healer. You know. But if you would like a place at this table, you have it. And that goes for everyone listening to this. Thank you for listening. And I look forward to standing in the discomfort with you to make a better world.